O song celestial. Hello, Bhagavad Gita. Let me see what comes out of me when I read thee. Okay, people, that was unexpected. Now I know why I ate the... Wow! I ate this an hour and 20 ago? This is... Incroyable. Oh yeah, I did the stuff with the... The kites flew by. Yeah, this is transcendence. Wow. Chapter 15. Let's just, see how long this is. Okay, 2 pages. Roughly. I just feel like eating. I just want to eat, you know. Just give me food. You know, just let me earn my living so I can have all the food that I want to have. You know, that would be my place, in a way, in heaven. You know, I wouldn't really mind anymore. I just really like peanut butter. I don't even know why. It's just... I just want to go shopping and buy food that I like and then cook awesome stuff with it. And then share it at some point with people, which I already do, of course. With my family. So I don't want to give this up just now. That's just my idea. Krishna speaketh, men call the aswata the banyan tree, which hath its boughs beneath, its roots above. Okay, upside down. The ever-holy tree, ye, for its leaves are green, and waving hymns which whisper truth. Who knows the aswata knows Veds and all. Its branches shoot to heaven and sink to earth. Oh yeah, I wanted to check. I have a post today. I just want to see if it fits. Every Monday I started posting on Instagram. Which I don't want to... I don't know if I'm still gonna do this by the time this comes out. I could imagine to do it. Okay, let's check. Ah, wow, it's this one. It's called If He's Strong, He'll Survive. Have I written something? Sometimes we must suffer in order to grow. And sometimes we must give others time to do their own suffering. You know, like, it'll do you good. So I won't respond to your emails any longer, maybe. But if the friendship was true, then we will meet again. From suffering springs forth a deep-rooted appreciation for life. This is the true school of yoga, life, and nature. I really don't understand why this isn't getting a lot of attention. I'm just serious about this. I really like what I'm doing. So it depicts a worm that is wounded, kind of in pain, and then people trying to... You know, so if you are emotionally wounded, people draw energy from you by making you speak about what hurts you. This is basically the idea of a therapist. But people also do this, you know, family and friends. They just leech off on someone. You have to use your trauma to funnel your creation. That's transformation then. You see, you just have to learn to channel yourself into something creative. Okay, that makes a total of 4,077 posts. Which I find an incredible amount of really good stuff. Which I believe to be good. Okay, now I have to quickly check the time. Sunrise time on Saturday. Let's check. Because that's where I have my next hike. Sunrise is 5:45. So that should be the start for the hike then. Which is now I can go to my German Instagram account and change this. What is this? A friend request? Is this supposed to be? I don't have friends. Usually this is all nonsense, of course. Okay, anyway. I don't want to look at this now. Just have to change this. Edit. So the earlier I go, the more, you know, I like to come back when it's still light. 5:45. Zack. So the more I can also stretch it out. And the more I get used to. Okay, apparently things are happening. I have to go quickly. I have to put this aside a little. I have more pressing things. I will continue with this recording soon after I have changed the hike time and date on my website. Priorities, you know. Alright. Okay, I have this mixture. It's called wood butter. Because I have this staff now and I removed the bark and then sandpapered it and brought it into the shape that I like, and now I made this wood butter out of beeswax. I just bought a candle a while ago in a shop made of beeswax and coconut oil, coconut fat. You can probably use oil if you wanted to. I used coconut fat now. And then you bring them together, into a consistency that is still kind of, you don't want it to be just solid wax. And then you can, if you carve things, you want to protect them. Let's say you carve a spoon and you use it to eat. You can cover it with this stuff and then it will stay good longer. So now this was the second phase of my staff making. I want to make a tip out of metal. You can say, how is this connected to the Bhagavad Gita? Well, the Bhagavad Gita is just some poem. It's like you can buy I'm just gonna say this because I've written my own poetry and it's in the Crazy Wisdom books, amongst other creations. It's also short stories and stuff. So you can buy the Crazy Wisdom book and then work with this. Or you just write your own poetry. You can read the Bhagavad Gita, but then you don't have to study it every day. And this is something that was said to Ramdas when he was asked to teach the Gita. He was told that, you don't have to worry about the Gita teaching itself. It's gonna do it. So I really have to stress the point that the translated version of the Bhagavad Gita is probably too westernized already. Because from what I feel like I know is that the words in Sanskrit have a completely different meaning. It's probably some old language of magic or something that translates a lot of things. But from the English mindset, which is not really peaceful or anything, it's just very aristocratic, the English-British mindset. Which is why all modern translations are probably nonsense. This is simply what I get out of this translated version. I don't know how the true version would be. So let's say that a word in Sanskrit maybe Sanskrit is always covering both sides of the coin. But now you're in a heavily polarized society, which we call Western, which is then, England and Germany and all these kinds of things, all these countries here, they're all highly polarized, which is why they always want to have war. I don't often hear of war in India, but I don't know, right? It's always Russia, Germany, America, and then the Arabian countries. Or maybe the rest is just too far away, who's to say? So let's say there's a term in Sanskrit. I have no idea about Sanskrit, but let's say each word has lots of meanings webbed into it. And now somebody from a highly polarized society comes to translate this. He will only understand what suits his own worldview. So you're polarized, you've been raised into an imbalance. And now you read the Bhagavad Gita from your understanding how the world works, so just like a poem or whatever, but you're not actually feeling it. But what you're expressing when you're translating it is the feeling you had when you were raised, which is, hey, I'm polarized, I'm imbalanced. Which is why maybe it's not the Gita itself that is so wishy-washy, whiny or something. Maybe it was just the translator. So you only have to look at, let's say, where did all this yoga stuff and the asanas, it's all somewhere there in the East, right? This India stuff. But if I look to England, then I don't see this. I see yoga studios, but I don't see true yoga. Which has no form, by the way. True yoga has no form. It's just what you make out of it. If you can stand sitting in the lotus posture, meditating, okay, do it, I don't like it. I want to hike. I want to be active. That's a much better way. We really have to progress. But that's then what I do. I'm not gonna run around force people to do this. I'm just gonna say, yo, this is what helped me. So what I'm jumping on is just this version of what's supposed to be the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita, I believe, in its essence, is truly a guide. This to me is not a guide, because it doesn't really guide me to do anything. Plus, it's always this me, which I'm not sure would exist in the original. So, let's say you speak from a place of bliss and somebody reads it that doesn't feel it. What good is his translation? That's just my whole take on the thing. So also my perception of what I believe the Gita to be is changing. But it's also what I do in between. So I don't get stuck on, I hate the Gita, why am I doing this? It's a lot of acceptance. I do a lot of smaller tasks in between. And then I get back to, okay, now I feel good about doing this again. Because now I worked on the stuff. I send an email, so that's out of the way. Updated this on my website, okay. Now I can finish this recording. And maybe then I can eat something, make some tea. And yeah, keep working so that maybe one day I can stop worrying about food. It's probably one of my biggest worries. Food. Yeah, I just like food. I just like to know there's gonna be a meal tomorrow. And then tomorrow after tomorrow. So you can bring up your children when the time comes, right? So it's not a very good place to start a family if you have to worry about food, which is the whole idea of first working hard. So to be honest, I don't see the sense in other cultures where it says, well, if you want to marry this daughter, then you have to give the father 50 oxen or 50, like a herd of 50, like cattle. I don't see it, because this should be an investment. Okay, it should be the price to pay, but not to buy the woman. This is just the father trying to get something out of, his daughter. If then the son-in-law manages to have a herd of cattle of 50 whatevers to get this beautiful daughter, then this should be his starting point for his own endeavors. Parents shouldn't really get something out of having children other than the pleasure of having children. They shouldn't even try to seize a child's fortune. They just shouldn't try to do this. And if a child has a lot of spirit and is like a ray of sun to all that surround it, then it shouldn't be filmed and made to say lines as they did with Macaulay Culkin. Because it's just milking children's spirit to have money yourself. And you just have to look at most of these Hollywood directors. They're not really clean people at all. They're usually obese or like a bit sickly and weak. They're not really what you'd call a true idol, like somebody who can really also be alone. I believe they lack stability themselves. And they like this, I tell people what to do and they do it. they're not really a lot about freedom. They're just, I have a god complex and that's why I make movies. And then you can make others have sex in front of the camera. Look what I can make you do. Yeah. It's just exactly the way it is. Which is why, to me, it is still more, enticing. So to draw something like a cartoon, animations, that to me is still more appealing than to film real people. While at the same time, of course, it draws you away from reality as it is. And then, because I make, let's say, an animated movie today, how is that gonna impact society in 50 years? If people watch this? Well, if the message is always, like, you could add into an animated movie, hey, you know, anyone's watching, this isn't the real world. But a child watching this won't understand it. And then it will identify with weird stuff. So reading is certainly better, but what is being conveyed? What is being translated? You don't know this Edwin Arnold, who translated this work. And you don't know the guy who wrote the Gita. So you cannot see them and say, oh, that's who I was following. You know, if you'd see Edwin Arnold, and you can see all his childhood trauma and everything, you'd probably say, why am I following this guy again? So you really have to know the people. So from the entire cast of Lord of the Rings, I would say that Andy Serkis is the most idolish in all of them. Because he simply turned what he did. I mean, he has a strong voice. He can stand on his own. He is cool behind the camera. He did play a part in King Kong, made by Peter Jackson also. He was barely recognizable there. He does a lot of the background stuff, plus the animal movement. I mean, he's tough as nails. He was, to me, the most inspiring character towards the end. One of the best performances. So, you know, everybody else thought they were so super important. You know, all this Frodo and Aragorn. Yeah, but Gollum was the one who was responsible for the ring falling into Mount Doom. You know, Elrond couldn't do it because he didn't want to meddle. He could have just slain Isildur back then and then it would have been all done, you know. But he didn't do it. You know, Gollum just said, oh, holy smokes, I'm just gonna take the ring and then just die with it. So Gollum wasn't really meddling. He didn't really want power. He kind of kept it to himself. And that in modern times, you know, is to me a much better teaching. So the Gita to me is not this one book. It's life then. So you don't need this book. We shouldn't cling to this. So Gita probably means something else in its original meaning. Bhagavad Gita, it probably means something else. Somebody just wrote it down, whatever. just like the Bible, stuff gets lost, then it gets, interpreted and then reinterpreted. And just like the word animosity starts with spirited and turns into today's meaning, hostile and aggressive behavior. So today I have to stress this point: when you're a spirited person, because you go hiking a lot in nature, people say you look aggressive. I'm just saying, if you look at people directly with eyes that can see truth, they will tell you that you look aggressive, because that's how they feel on the inside. If you mirror people truth, they will try to, they say it's you. If they are imbalanced and they look at you because you started to mirror stuff very well, because you've cleaned your mirror, so you're reflecting stuff back to people whether you want to or not, and you look at them and they will say, that's you. No, it's just them, my friend. Because I know how my life looks like, and I know how yours looks like, and so I can tell who's really imbalanced. Because my life is all about balance. And that's still a tricky thing, so I clearly have to clean the dishes after I have finished going through this work. Yeah, and I struggle against this. Also against finishing tasks. Sometimes I don't want to do it, and then I wait a bit, and then I do it, and then it's okay. So I also struggle a bit against this, but I feel like eating, so I gotta work. And hope there's more food on the line. Okay. We were with this tree. Its branches shoot to heaven. Oh wait. Yeah, exactly. Its branches shoot to heaven and sink to earth. Even as the deeds of men, which take their birth from qualities, its silver sprays and blooms, and all the eager verdure of its girth leap to quick life at kiss of sun and air, as man's lives quicken to the tempting sphere of wooing sense. Its hanging rootlets seek the soil beneath, helping to hold it there. As actions wrought amid this world of men bind them by ever-tightening bonds again. If ye knew well the teaching of the tree, what its shape saith, and whence it springs, and then how it must end, and all the ills of it, the acts of sharp detachment, ye would wet and cleave the clinging snaky roots. What? If ye knew well the teaching of the tree, what its shape saith, and whence it springs, and then how it must end, and all the ills of it? Okay, because maybe a tree would die? Wow, okay. So the tree in itself is also a representation of truth. It has roots and it has a crown. Right? As actions wrought amid this world of man bind them by ever-tightening bonds again. Okay, so the more you act, the more you are bound also to this existence. Kind of get that, right? Because you are a part of what is happening. You are part of the web of life. If you knew well the teaching of the tree, what its shape saith, and whence it springs. So what does the tree teach? It actually teaches balance and stability. But also that all things die, no matter how old they get. What its shape saith, it also says, roughly, maybe where it has grown. The shape, so my shape, is also a representation of today's world. The clothes we wear and stuff, everything. Also where we live. but also how we behave and yeah. What its shape saith, and whence it springs. Oh, whence it springs. Maybe where it came from or where it is. And then how it must end and all the ills of it. Okay, the ills of an end, that's already polarization again. And all the ills of it, that's just polarization. Because we know already everything must die. So what are the ills of something dying? Nothing. And then how it must end. So if you would know this, is what he's saying, how it will all end. And then the ills of it. So either the translator or he who wrote it was afraid of dying. So some people think if I'm going to die, everything's going to go to ruin. Well, not really. I can contribute, but when I'll die, there will always be someone. I chose to live because I simply like to do things. I like to observe and to experience. So to be alive is also a selfish choice. Plus there was simply life in me. And there was also people I felt like staying alive for. The axe of sharp detachment you would whet, and cleave the clinging snaky roots, and lay this aspata of sense life low to set. So he says, if you would look at the tree, see the teaching, and what the tree itself stands for, and where it came from, and how it all must end, and the terror it would bring, you would take an axe and chop it down. You see, this is like, you see someone standing, in life, let's see, maybe your parents or your aunt, or just a stranger on the street, let's say the drunken guy sleeping in his own puddle of, piss or vomit or whatever. And you would see it, and you would see the truth of it, you would go and try to kill it. That's the meddler. That's the, I cannot stand seeing you, so I'll rather make away with you. Because if I know that your life is just gonna create more suffering, I'd rather have you gone. So why would you fell a tree just for it being there and reminding you that everything will end? That's a good reminder. So your elders, you're not supposed to stand around and whine about them leaving one day. You're supposed to say, hey, I got to know you, That's really nice. And that's the feeling you should mirror them. And not the, oh, you're gonna die one day. Yeah, thank God, we can all move on. So death is liberation. Okay, new growth upspringing to that happier sky, which they who reach shall have no day to die, nor fade away, nor fall to him, Father and first, who made the mystery. Okay, this is the biggest misconception of all, that people think if I'm enlightened, I'm not gonna die. It's just bullshit. You're gonna die like everything else. Your current form is going to die no matter what you do. No matter what you do. And that's what I truly believe. Because life only happens when you are also grounded. So you have to nourish the body to keep yourself alive. Otherwise you will die. And I believe I am something that happens once. And then something else happens. Which is why you got to stay grounded. Which they who reach shall have no day to die, nor okay. of old creation, for to him come they from passion and from dreams who break away, who part the bonds constraining them to flesh, and him the highest worshipping always. No longer grow at mercy of that breeze of summer pleasure stirs the sleeping trees. What blast of tempest tears them, bow and stem, to the eternal world pass such as these. Another sun gleams there, another moon, another light, not dusk, nor dawn, nor noon, which they who once behold return no more. They have attained my rest, life's utmost boon. When in this world of manifested life, the undying spirit, setting forth from me, taketh on form, it draweth. This is always when he starts with this stupid "from me," that's when I really get into attack mode. Taketh on form, it draweth to itself from being's storehouse, which containeth all senses and intellect. The sovereign soul thus entering the flesh or quitting it. Somebody should have said, you cannot really translate this. And then you shouldn't translate it into like one poem, but just translate it and then give the meanings along the way. This would be a much better teaching. Wow. The sovereign soul thus entering the flesh or quitting it gathers these up as the wind gathers scents blowing above the flower beds, ear and eye and touch and taste and smelling, these it takes, he and a sentient mind, linking itself to sense things so. This is really hard work. The unenlightened ones mark not that spirit when he goes or comes. Here comes again, the unenlightened ones. Who's enlightened? I mean, if you're enlightened, then you see the spirit, and then you can see enlightened beings playing their parts. I have seen this already very often, where people I thought were just utterly unconscious, but then you figure out where they actually not. I mean, they got this far. Just because they don't have a podcast doesn't mean they don't know anything. You see what I'm saying? So the unenlightened ones mark not that spirit when he goes or comes. Mark not that spirit. What does it mean? Nor when he takes his pleasure in the form. Conjoined with qualities. I mean, you could probably get something out of this, just as I did now. Nor when he takes his pleasure in the form. So I like having form, that's why I eat. When I have no form, maybe then I have to stop eating. Conjoined with qualities, but those see plain who have the eyes to see, holy souls see which strive thereto. Enlightened they perceive that spirit in themselves, but foolish ones, even though they strive, discern not, having hearts unkindled, ill-informed. Well, I clearly see toxic behavior in a lot of people, and I see the need to change this. Otherwise, the world wouldn't be the way it is today. And some people clearly focus too much on their mischievous nature. So I see in everyone kind of a spirit, but I also see that they think they can do what they want. That's what I found in a lot of people. They think they can get away with being nasty. Yeah, but you're gonna pay the price for it. You may not know it today, but it's gonna get you one day. Right? It's this idiot in Alien Prometheus clinging to life, right? And then he goes to this far away planet, and then he meets this guy who's kind of like an architect. And he says, I want to tell me this, tell me how to achieve eternal life. And he just, takes off his head. There you go. You've been liberated. You were clinging for far too long and created a lot of nonsense. And now the world is finally rid of you. But you set an example and others will try to follow it, and that's a problem. So I've set my own kind of example. I spent a lot of time playing frisbee in the park, and now other people are doing it. But I'm no longer there, because I let go of this. So I also saw the error in my own ways. But at the same time, it wasn't really that bad, because it's better if people play frisbee than if they sit around and just smoke. It's better to be active. And it still was its own teaching, but I left at the right time. Sometimes you have to leave to make space for something else to come. So I could focus on myself and other people continued. But I cannot go back to how I was. Right? So playing frisbee in itself is nice, but I have learned what I needed to learn, that playing frisbee will not create a full stomach for me, unless of course you make it a business. But I didn't want to do this because people don't respect it as much. They won't say, oh wow, that really helps us. Plus, because it's stationary and too close to where people live, it means that people just sat around and watched us play frisbee. So they smoked, listened to music, and drank alcohol, right? And we were playing frisbee on an advanced level, and I slacklined on an advanced level. So I had to let this go because I said that's not a challenge. I mean, for me it is, but for them it isn't. They also have to accept the challenge. So I said, if people, if we want to have people's respect as what we are, what I believe to be maybe mages or wizards or kshatriya, we have to get strong again. Which is why hiking then became, hiking and swimming became my thing, where I said that's what I can do. Right? That's what, so if you think the teacher, the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita is going to teach you something, then after you've read it, then you should figure out what you can do. So you can keep reading the Gita. If you in the end know what you can do with your life, okay. But if you don't, then it's a waste of time. So I went hiking in nature and I received visions. But the reason I received visions was because I was learning to channel energy from down below to up above. That's what a true channel must do. If a channel cannot stand, then what good is its channeling? If a channel cannot keep straight or balanced, then what good is its channeling? Then it's just going to be highly polarized, imbalanced. So a channel needs to be balanced, which is what I believe. The best channeling happens also when you stand. And that takes a while until you can do this. Okay. And this just seems not really... It just seems to me imbalanced. Okay, becoming vital warmth. Okay, okay, I'm just gonna skip this. For in this world, being is twofold: the divided one, the undivided one. Being is twofold. Okay, I wouldn't divide being into the divided and the undivided. Because the undivided has no other side. It's just everything all the time. Twofold is then the division. I don't know, it's just what I see. So he thinks, because there's Krishna talking, right? And Krishna says, well, there's divided and undivided ones, but he's, of course, in the belief that he's everything. But everything wouldn't stand there and say, I am everything, because it's just everything. So you can feel like you're part of everything, but you cannot claim to be this, because you're just a part of everything. So you can never be everything. You can feel a lot, and you can identify with the feeling of being everything, but you cannot be everything because everything is everything. So to me, that's just how it is. And I've really tried to be everything always. So in the end, you just have to accept I'm a man. I have to figure out how I am a man so that my woman can be my woman or something. I don't know. Women do different stuff than men. Or maybe not. It's hard to say. Maybe it really doesn't matter. Maybe it's just spirit. Because I could have been an awesome woman, right? Yeah, I really believe I could have been an awesome woman. Just as I realized I can be an awesome man. And for that you have to really train hard. Okay, he says now, for in this world being is twofold. You think being is manifold? The divided one, the undivided one. Don't separate stuff into, you've got this many of that. You've got everything all the time. All things that live are the divided. Okay, that which sits apart, the undivided. You see, he gets it wrong. That's just what I'm saying. All things that live are the divided. Well, what are you then? You stand there, you give a speech, seem to be alive, right? So you cannot be then the undivided. Because that would make you everything, and then you wouldn't stand here, because you would have no form. Other than everything, everywhere, all the time. Higher still is he, the highest holding all, whose name is Lord, the eternal sovereign first, who fills all worlds, sustaining them, and dwelling thus beyond divided being and undivided. I am called of man and Vedas life supreme, the Purushottama. Who knows me thus? You see, now he's flipping again. I mean, you can really identify with oneness. It's gonna drive you mad. You're gonna run around and say, I am this, I am that. Which is why Neti says, yeah, no, it's not quite me. So you as an individual need Neti to discern yourself from everything else. You have to say, yeah, but I'm more like this. Right? Nah, that's not quite me. I'm not the guy who really likes driving cars. You know, I can enjoy driving cars, but I know the cost of it. So that's the tree then. You can look at the metaphoric tree in the form of a car and say, yeah, I'd like to chop that one down. And I'm doing my best to do so. But if I, let's say, were invited to give a talk in Amsterdam, I would do it. How would I get there? Well, probably, right, by train, by bus, or by car. So, but I wouldn't fly. That much I have decided already. Right? I would go to other cities, but I wouldn't fly. I would go by boat if it's a sailing vessel, or so I believe. But you can also see it like this: if the boat is going anyway, then why not? That's also a thing. Because if the thing is also to not do it regularly. So I don't have to have a car. Because if I'd have it, I would feel compelled to drive it. And that just makes no sense. I know I can drive a car. In that sense, I could technically drive someone else's car. But I just wouldn't have one myself. So you can, let's say, cook at home with gas, but when you're with other people and they cook with electricity, well, then you cook with electricity. So you don't have to say, I cannot use any of the stuff, because it's being used anyway. And if you use electricity to make an awesome meal for the community, well, it's not that bad, is it? So I can choose also how I use electricity. I use it to show people simply the way I feel, or what I've discovered in my own life. It's not that bad, is it? It gave me a purpose. However much I dislike the purpose, it doesn't really matter, because it is part of the world today. Doing this is something you can do, and I felt compelled to do it, and here I am, doing it. He who knows me thus, with mind unclouded, knoweth all, dear prince. And with his whole soul ever worshippeth me. I really don't like it if he says it's me, it just makes no sense. Now is the sacred, secret mystery declared to thee. Now you know, I've told you, in the end it's just me. So everything I say always boils down to me. So I go into this, everything galactic, but in the end it's just ego talking. That's what you get from reading too many books. So people read stuff like this, the Bhagavad Gita, and they read all these fancy smart books, and then they talk about it without feeling it. You see what I'm saying? Then they just talk about it without feeling it. So they just regurgitate words, but they're not feeling it. So they can also never criticize it. Plus they only read the words or the books that they think is gonna make them seem really spiritual. But if you seem spiritual, then you just didn't get it, man. You never freed your spirit, because you never worked hard enough. You just read books and now you sound fancy, but in truth, you're just like everyone else. So you have to distinguish yourself. And I, in my own way, am just like everyone else who also figured himself out and does it. With me, it just took a while longer, because it seemed really complicated. The world seemed really complicated, and I was really confused from all the sugar and all the stuff that I put into myself, until I started to narrow it down. Okay, this suits me much better now. Here ends chapter 15 of the Bhagavad Gita, entitled Purushottama Prapti Yog, or the Book of Religion by Attaining the Supreme. So yeah. So the idea is to not go into the really big thing and then always end on me, me, me. The idea is also to see yourself as a part of the whole, and then start, but not the whole in the sense the entire world. You have to see this also small scale. Just the people you knew since you were a child. I mean, that's also important. But you cannot run around and please your brother all the time, because that will not be good. So focus on yourself. So you can be the most help by being yourself. But you still have to look also, okay, what is needed? I want to help, so I simply am strong. But family shouldn't just sit on each other all the time. Family should disband and do its own thing. And this is what I'm doing. Because that's what it turned out to be, right? I just take a lot of responsibility. And already have mentally, emotionally, whatever, prepared myself that if one day there is a storm of people interested in my content, that at least I have prepared myself. So I'm not gonna get carried away. So I can just keep on living like this, because this works for me. This is really, I really found myself alone in this apartment. But how my life will turn out to be, I cannot say. Still cannot say. So yeah, that's then the miracle of creation. You sleep with your wife, or your wife sleeps with you, which is of course a beautiful act, if you can see it like that. And then you come out in the end, and then your parents, you don't know how the child is gonna be like. So that's the journey. To get to know this spirit also, to see it grow up, and then to do everything you can. And one of the reasons, because that's, I think, what also, I think it was hinted on in here, but it's also what Ramdas said in his talks. He said that a child being born to yogi or into a family of yogi is a rare thing. I certainly agree, because it's really hard to survive this. And a man and a woman that practice yoga need a lot of resolve to really want to do this together. Because it involves a lot of opening up, devotion, and letting go. So true yoga is clearly about transcendence, about moving on, and about balance then. Okay. Yeah. Yo, what? No way.